Hey, Steelers Nation, it's Joe Rockey with the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate. In yesterday's episode, I discussed why Joey Porter is going to have an amazing year. In this episode, I'm going to talk about those who didn't have the advantage of Porter and who we should watch stepping up this year, specifically focusing on, obviously, last year's draft class. Because we talked about how hard it is to get yourself in position to grow and to become part of the team because you don't know what your body type's supposed to be. Well, that's out of the picture now. Now George Pickens knows what it means to play a full season, getting contact in the NFL. He knows what it means to be open down the sidelines and only run go routes down the sidelines and have quarterbacks put the ball out of bounds, effectively taking you out of the national perspective when you're talented enough to be a top 10 guy. He now knows that. He now knows when I'm given an option route that I shouldn't always take the go, how to manipulate a safety to be open across the middle of the field. And that is what they are working on with George Pickens. But I'm going to go through the entire rookie class of last year because so many of them stuck around in a way that is unnormal. Unnormal is probably the wrong way to say it. Unnatural is probably more accurate. So last year, the Steelers every single round made the team. That doesn't normally happen. Obviously, Kenny and Pickens, they're great, and they got the potential. You're not cutting your first or second pick. But Connor Hayward is a sixth-round pick, had no guarantee of making this roster. And not only did he make this roster, he made a difference on the field. And he's one of these guys that's saying, hey, you're throwing in like 6 different positions, and you made things work. In a lot of ways, Connor Hayward is the cherry on the top to yesterday's episode about Porter. Being with someone that you have a very tight relationship with to show you what your body should look like to be prepared for the NFL is such a massive advantage. As well as being with Cam being here and established in Pittsburgh really helped him. So Connor Hayward is kind of my exception to last year's draft class because I think that his growth still obviously will happen entering the second year, but I don't think it's going to be as noticeable because he had such an unnatural jump into the first year because of Cam being around. But we look at the other ones. Mark Robinson is a 7th-round pick. Obviously didn't get a hat every game, but when he does, he's showing progress, playing 50% of the snaps against Cleveland, and then obviously making some noise picking off Kenny in the OTAs. Tomorrow's episode will be about why we should be freaking out about things like that. But the point being for today's episode, he's now gone through the process. And he's gone through the process where it wasn't handed to him. Mark Robinson is kind of the OTA darling right now, right? He picks off Kenny Pickett. Pick sixes are always fun. And Mark Robinson is kind of the darling of the OTAs right now from the reports that we're getting. Obviously, we can't get full details from OTAs. It's part of the rules of them. But when we look at what we've heard, picks off Kenny, pick 6, obviously fun stuff. He's in a position where he's getting looked highly upon. In a position room where the Steelers last year deleted and restart. The 3 who got the most snaps last year in Bush, Jack, and Spillane, all gone. And we look at Robinson, while being a second-year guy, is the carryover from last year. Bringing in 2, potentially good middle linebackers that aren't necessarily proven in the NFL is not a giant roadblock to overcome. Now, the reason we're bringing this up is Mark Robinson played against a lot of big run stoppers last year. He came in and played 50% of the snaps against Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns. And the reason that that's significant is because we're going to be playing, obviously, Cleveland twice more this year, but we're going to be playing San Francisco. The Rams are going to have no chance unless they run the ball. And Seattle is a very good running team as well. And when we look at the South, there's King Henry sitting down there. And God knows Houston's going to realize very quickly that their quarterback isn't anything, and they'll try to run the ball on us. So the need to have a solid and stable run-stopping linebacker is needed on this team. This again, both the two we signed are run stoppers. And Mark Robinson is in that same light. And I'm bringing him up because the ability to jump from the first to second year is where you see the growth. Granted, middle linebacker is a very hard position to play in the NFL, and it normally takes 5 years of seasoning to get it done. But physically speaking, if you can at least give me we're just going to put you on run stopping position and just accept that you're basically another middle linebacker or another interior lineman who's just going and attacking the lane, there's ways to make that work too in this NFL. The problem is the Steelers want to have both of the middle linebackers being dual coverage, dual run stopping guys. And that's where I believe that Neal is really going to be the second linebacker when it's all said and done. But Robinson is a guy that when you're going to St. Vincent, keep an eye on it. The guy brings up contact. He has put on healthy weight, and he now knows what it needs to be and got a taste as a rookie, which gets me to the last year's rookie that I want to discuss that I'm actually worried about that Steelers Nation's obsessed with, which is Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin never really got a taste last year. Sure, he played in preseason. He played the majority of camp, but he never got to see what the NFL experience was like. He never had I'm running down the sideline and the quarterback's putting the ball out of bounds, and this is the one time out of 30 routes I was open, and I didn't get a competitive throw. And we saw what happened to Pickens. He would get visibly upset sometimes. Now, I remember that Atlanta game where he comes on the sideline and just starts screaming. Well, Pickens has the clout. He was a second-round pick. Austin didn't even get the chance to have a hat the whole season. And my fear with Austin is not him healing from his injury. My fear with Austin is, does he know what it is to be an NFL player? Because we talk all the time about, can you get your mental rips from the sideline? Can you learn what's going on? You have to have on-field experience to be able to translate that. And that is the reason that I'm worried about Calvin Austin. I think he's going to make the team. I want him to make the team because, it'll mean he's on it instead of Olszewski. And just as a kick returner, he's much more valuable than Olszewski. But I caution this for people that say, when we're looking at the Steelers, and this might be a fantasy note as well, of saying Calvin Austin's going to be your third receiver. He's going to get all the reps. Look at it. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure you can just write him over Miller because Miller had done it in the league before and does know that. So the mental rips to someone like Miller, who he's fighting against, mean more. And this is not to rip Calvin Austin and not to say his potential is shot or anything like that. I'm saying that do not expect a second-year bump from Calvin Austin to be proportionate to what you got from George Pickens. He's actually a guy that, because of him not being on the field, I expect him to have a delayed year in what his second-year bump will be and have a chance to have an explosive third year. Not to say that this year's a scratch by any stretch. No. But I do think that when we look at this from the perspective of got on the field now, learn it, he didn't have that. Even Leal had that. So going to the one who was the third-round pick, Leal didn't get as many playing time reps as most of the Steelers Nation would have thought, especially given the fact that Loudermilk didn't take him. Going through last season, the thought was, well, Loudermilk's going to step up, and if he doesn't, Leal will be there, and we're going to slowly but surely build the inevitable bridge of making sure that if Cam would have to go away, that we're okay. We didn't really get that goal last year. I mean, Leal did not play a whole lot of snaps. He appeared at only in 11 games, but the games he was in, he was not an innings eater. But now he has gone through the process. He had a little bit of the what position are you going to play? And with the Steelers being able to have molded him and figured out that decision, I expect Leal, who's already reportedly has a different body type than he did last year, to really step some things up and to not go quietly into the night into the Benton experience. Because by all reports, Leal is figuring it out and going to be a force to have to move behind at the depth chart. And getting Leal to step up, and I do believe Benton is an instant right there. We might now have two not necessarily two at levels, but two Cam isn't the only guy out there in the middle of the field type guys, an actual legitimate Robin. Because we haven't had that. We have not had the Bud Dupree across from TJ on the interior. We just haven't since Tuitt's left. And Leal is my bet for making progress to start to fill that problem. Sure, Ogunjobi was a nice fill-in. Alalalu was nice. They weren't to it. And they are not on the same level, even close to being on the same level as Cam. Leal looks like he can. And Leal is in that same department of saying, hey, I know you drafted someone. I know you drafted someone higher than you drafted me, but I'm not going quietly into the night. And what I think gives Leal a boost over Dan Moore, who's the other one I'm making this comparison to, is Leal's also getting that extra ramification of he's going to get the acceleration because, oh, this guy looks like he belongs now. This guy's now mentally in the right spot. He got his body in the right shape. And I really like the potential of what Leal will be bringing to the table. Now, I mentioned George Pickens a couple times in this video, and Pickens is a route tree answer. Can he expand his routes? And part of it is the scheme. George Pickens knew he was taller and faster than every single corner he was playing. He's been that way since he's been 16 years old. Why shouldn't you just go deep and catch a deep ball? Again, the most efficient way to get more yardage is to just keep running straight. Makes a whole lot of sense for every single level he's been at, including the NFL. This guy should be getting more jump balls thrown to him every single game. Problem is, early in the year, Trubisky couldn't keep the ball in bounds, and then because there wasn't immediate results, the team shied away from it. Go back to that catch where he was laying out backwards, caught it one-handed on the sideline. When you look at that image, he's an entire body length away from the guy who's covering him. Granted, it's at the point of catching the ball. But the point is that he can create separation, and we don't give him enough opportunities overall as a team. And I really hope that changes, whether it be Pickens himself realizing that I need to start doing more middle of the field combinations, as he did begin to do, especially in December and January of last year. And it's part of the scheme that's drawn up. There's too much flexibility for the receivers. So it's almost like the way the Steelers are is before the snap, Kenny, calls a play and then needs to basically retell them, you do this, you do this. And there's not a consistency. And it's one of the biggest problems with the Canadian offense.